Hey, welcome back. Today is the last video for our Firefly API series. So just to recap, we started off with talking about how do we use the Firefly client ID and secret in exchange for a token. We then use the token in subsequent videos, to make various different Firefly API calls like text to image or upload or gem fill or object composite. And in the last video, we we even incorporate that workflow with Frame IO as well, so that images can get in and out of Frame IO. Now, today's is the last video, and in this we are going to incorporate Photoshop API into the mix as well. So just to revisit our last workflow, and that is where we had the image that is stored in frame.io. This image incidentally has a transparent background, so very convenient, right? So what it does is that when it will respond to a custom event. So when someone click on that image, it would trigger the event, and this event will have a series of actions that happens afterwards, like exchange of the tokens. So we demonstrate that it get access to the Firefly token as well as the Frame.io token, and that using those token we call the Firefly upload image API. So that image got upload and generate as an image ID. Using the image ID together with the object composite API, that it generates a series of backgrounds based on the Excel datasheet, the text prompt in Excel, right? And eventually those images are then output back into the Frame.io using the Frame.io create asset API, right? So this is what we had last time. Now, it just so happened that the image has a transparent background. What if the image doesn't have a transparent background, but a full background there? So this workflow in itself won't do what we need to do. So this is why we are here today. We are going to incorporate this Photoshop remove background API to help us do the trick. So here we have an image with a gray background. And Photoshop these days, the remove background are very smart, very good. So it would, again, what it's going to do is that you respond to an event trigger, so a custom action in frame.io, and this will kick off a series of actions like exchange of token, etc. But not only will it exchange the token, and it will also make use of the token to call the Photoshop API. So the Photoshop API will remove the background. This bit is okay, right? Now, once Photoshop remove the background, you might think that then this image will then be passed on to the Firefly API for object composite, right? Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work like this. So for reasons that we'll explain later on, Photoshop, when it remove the background, it needs to put the output to a temporary storage. This temporary storage can be one of the three temporary storage mechanism. It could be a Dropbox, it could be Microsoft Azure or Amazon S3. So the output from Photoshop, once the image has been removed, needs to temporarily store in this repository. And today we are going to use Dropbox. So we have the Dropbox API for us to create a temporary link for Photoshop to upload the content there. Once the contents are uploaded to the Dropbox, then we'll need to create a temporary download link from Dropbox. So an upload link and then a download link. This download link is going to be used by the Firefly Object Composite APIs to put it in conjunction with those generated background, and then the rest will send it back to Frame.io. Right? So if you look into this workflow, it's very similar to the last exercise, except that we are not using the image upload API for Firefly. Instead, we are going to use the Photoshop Remove Background API. But because of this kind of like special requirement for temporary storage, so we need to also create an account for Dropbox so that we could temporarily put things up and temporarily get things down. Okay, all right. So this is what that is. Now, in the interest of time, right, since many of these steps are very similar to the last Power Automate workflow, we are going to just bring up the last Power Automate workflow and just remove things that we don't need and add new things that we need for today's workflow. Okay, all right. So let's just have a look at the Power Automate. Right. So this is what we had last time. We've got this pass. We've got the image trigger. So this respond to HTTP request. We generate the URL. Remember, this is the URL that is going to be used by the Frame.io custom action. So again, you to remind everyone, right? So in Frame.io, when you do a webhook or custom action, you need to have a place where you could send the event to. This URL, the place is from the Power Automate, and I just copy it there, right? Okay, all right. Now, and so once it's done, then the when someone click on that action, click on the asset, this will respond, and then we've got passing action to pass the action kind of like the asset JSON from Frame.io returned by Frame.io. Now, but we need more than that, right? So we need to find specifically the asset, not just everything. We need to find specifically the asset there. This is where we use the Frame.io get asset API, and this asset API will return the return a JSON file, and this is through that JSON file we found the URL of that asset, right? And we did that last time. Last time we had the HTTP get asset. Why? Because we need that to grab those content element that we could use later on for the HTTP upload, right? Now, as explained before, we are not going to use the HTTP upload. We are going to use the Photoshop remove background. So why don't we just delete this one? All right, so I'm just going to clean up this workflow and clean up the associated pass JSON as well. We don't actually need this HTTP get asset as well, because this is only used for the upload API. So we are not using an upload API, so we remove that one. Right. Now, the rest will be pretty similar. So we will use pretty much everything else and add new things for today's exercise there, right? Now, we are going to, before we save it, also point out last time, right? So the object composite, if you recall, we have the upload ID that was from the object, so the image upload. So it returned an ID because we've deleted that. So it's kind of like it's gone, right? Now I'm going to save it and we'll see what happened. It will return an error. Why? Because now incidentally, when we did the image upload, it returned the image ID, but not only just it returned an image ID, it returned an image ID as an array, right? Even though it is one ID there, right? And this is why you see the loop as well, because it's going to loop through the array and etc. etc. But now that we've removed that image upload ID, or we remove that image upload API, right? So there's no array return, and this is why it tells you that there's this error there. So there's we remove that, so there's no, it's blank, right? So now when we are using Photoshop API, unlike the image upload API return an array of ID, even though there's only one element. Photoshop API, which we are going to show you later on, return just one URL. So there is no loop, so to speak. right? It would be just one URL there, not an array, just one URL. So what I could do so that I could reuse any of these elements, I may just move it out of the loop, move it out of the loop. And then this is for once we've got the image, we call the create asset frame.io API, right? So I'm going to also move it out of that loop, right? So that there's a array loop that from the image upload API that we've deleted. We might as well delete this loop as well. So hit the delete key. So see if I save it one more time. So hopefully that it will now let us save it. So so on the surface it works, right? So before we actually add in Photoshop APIs, etc., I like to do a quick test so that if there's any error, we'll be able to catch it sooner than later. I know there will be an error here in the object comp because we don't have anything here, right? So it will return an error. Doesn't matter. We'll fix that later on. But I just want to make sure that everything else, especially the beginning bit, is all good. So we save it and go to frame.io. So frame.io today, we've got 3 images. These are images, unlike last time, which were transparent. This time, the 3 images have a background. So we are going to use it as a test. So I'm going to select this, right? Go to the trigger and event. So remember, demo 4 is a custom action. And it says success. So that's good. So it's triggering an event to Power Automate. Let's go to Power Automate now. Have a look, right? To see how it's running, we click the back button, and we'll see that how it's working. So there's this running 14 seconds ago. Let's go and click it. And so it actually, turned out that it returned an error, which is good as we expected, right? So indeed the error comes into the object composite. So as we expect, because we didn't put in the parameter like image ID, there was no image ID there. But this is fine. I don't care the bit. What I care is this bit. So everything seems to be working well up to the object composite there. So we are ready to. So it means that we have just delete the things that we don't really need, but not deleting more than what we should be doing. So that's good. Now, what we are going to do now is to call the Photoshop APIs. But before we call the Photoshop API, remember that we need to create a temporary storage so that when Photoshop does its magic, it has some place to put the output, right? And to do this, we need to have a temporary storage. And I use Dropbox here because I can create a free account. So I go to Dropbox, create a free account, dropbox.com developers, and then I create an app. So this is an app that I've created. So you could create, I don't know if there's any limitation how many apps, but I've created one app. And in that app, it will have the application key, the application secret, and then you could use OpenAuth to generate a Dropbox token. Now, in actual production, this is what you want to do. Make an HTTP call so that you could generate a token, right? But now, we are not going to do it here because the whole process, how it works, right? In the interest of time, we are just going to do it right here. So there's this generate token button that you could just generate a token. Now, the way this token got generated has an expiry time of 4 hours. So after 4 hours, this token will expire, right? So, but this is fine just for our exercise today, more than we need, right? But when you are doing an actual script, the actual workflow, you would want to do the proper way, right? Use the ID secret so that it return a token, right? But I'll use this one. I'll just copy this token and go back to Power Automate. So just go and create a new variable to store the token. I didn't name it pretty well. This one was for Firefly token, right? Why don't we name it Firefly token? Yeah, always good to name it so properly so that it's easy for you to differentiate one from the other, right? So we this is previously we used this to get the Firefly token, but after this Firefly token, before we call the Photoshop API, we are going to call the Dropbox API. So I'm going to first put a variable to store the Dropbox token, and give it a name underscore db underscore token as a string, and copy the value. Okay, now once we've got the token, how do we create a temporary storage that Photoshop can upload the image to? So this is where we need to go to the documentation of Dropbox. Under the developers documentations, and then there's the API references, HTTP reference, and there's an overview, user endpoints, and this is where all the APIs are available for Dropbox. Now the one that we want is this one, get a temporary upload link. So this get temporary upload link will give you a one-time use upload link. So they will generate a link where you could use it one time to upload content into the Dropbox location, right? So the URL to call is this. If I take, it's similar to really our Frame.io access token, right? So it would need post it. Authorization is a bearer token, content type, and then there's some data parameter which we'll look at later on. But I'm going to copy this and call our Dropbox API. So HTTP post content type application JSON, right? Authorization bearer, and put in the Dropbox token. And in terms of the parameters that we send, right, we get it from here. So there's this set of information that we get, right? So auto rename, if you want to look at each of these parameters, you could actually click commit info, and then you explain to you what each of these are for, right? So auto rename, whether when there's when you upload into Dropbox, if there's a file that has already the same name, so what do you want it to do? Should you rename this new file, right? And mode, so mode add, but instead of adding, you could also do things like override, etc., right? So you could use this, right? The path is where this upload file goes. If when you upload to a Dropbox, where does it goes to? So you could point out the path with the file name as well. Now in my case, my Dropbox account, that's my homepage. So I've got a folder called temp. So inside the folder, I've got some images there, right? So there's this cutout.png and icon.png. So this is where I upload some files there. Now, what I really want is for Photoshop, do is magic, and then upload the output into this temp folder. Might as well upload it and replace this cutout. So whatever that it is, upload it, call it, override this file, cutout, and give this file name again, cutout.png, right? So that's what I want, right? So with that, so I'm going to just copy this bunch of parameters and paste it in the Power Automate, right? So because I really wanted to go to the temp folder, so I create like temp, and the file name, give it a file name as cutout.png. Now auto rename, I don't really want auto rename. I want it to be overwrite. So when something happen, overwrite. Right. So that's what I want. Right. Now this is a temporarily upload link that it will generate. You could even specify the duration of this link when because the link will expire as well. So you could put in a parameter 3600. The documentation will tell us whether there's second or something, right? But for me, doesn't matter. I'm going to, after this, I'm going to call the Photoshop API straight away. I'm sure that I've got it. There's enough time for me to do so, right? Why don't I just give this name as well? HTTP Dropbox upload link. Right, so always give a better proper name there. Now I think that would do. I'm going to save it and test it, because if everything works well, it should return a URL that we could then pass it to Photoshop, right? So I'm going to go back and click again, right? So click OK. So go to Power Automate, right? We want to check the status. So I'm going back to click the back button, so it could show me the run history of this flow. And 13 seconds ago. So click again. We expect it to fail sometime later at the last step, but doesn't matter. What I really care is this bit, right? So this bit has green tag. That is good. If I take a look at this green tag, right? So the upload link. Let's just take a look at the output. Right, so the output 200 status, that is good, right? And then take the body, that is generate a URL link. So this URL link has a dropboxapi.com. So that is the template link that we can use, Photoshop can use. I'm going to copy it. And again, as we said, right, so we don't care about this last bit, doesn't really matter. So Copilot was trying to tell me why it fails as well. So thank you, Copilot. And I'm going to go back and edit, right? Because I know we could get the URL, and you know the drill. We want to make sure that we put pass the JSON so that we could access the URL, right? So pass JSON. We are going to pass let's just give a name, db upload link JSON, right? And it's going to come from the db upload link HTTP body. In terms of a schema, we copy the output, so that was handy, and we go and paste the output, which has the URL link, and then we click done, and that will generate the schema, and we could now use this schema to pass it into Photoshop. Okay, all right. Now that we've got the upload link ready, we are going to call the Photoshop APIs. We can do so simply because that we've previous in the field step earlier, we've got the Firefly token. So we actually grab the token because we need the token to call the Photoshop API. The Firefly tokens can be used to call the Photoshop API. Now, if I go to the Photoshop developer page, so it's all under Firefly services. So we've got the Firefly API, Photoshop APIs there. Now the API that we want is this remove background. Photoshop have tons of APIs that we could use, right? But for today's exercise, the one that could help us is the remove background. So this remove background has the URL, so that is the URL that we want. And the rest is like what you would expect, right? At the header, you need the authorization, XAPI key, content type, etc., etc. Right? So I am going to Power Automate, and once we got the URL generated, we go to create a new action or add a new action. And this is going to be HTTP. We are going to paste the Photoshop remove background API, which is this URL, and post content type. So we've typed in so many times, right? So the same kind of like the same parameters that we type in. I think by now we could almost remember by heart. So we need to have the Firefly client ID and then authorization and bearer Firefly token, right? So we've got multiple tokens there: Frame.io token, Firefly token, Dropbox token. So very important that we name things well, so that there's no confusion. And lastly, we need to input the image, right? So this is the parameters that we use put into the remove background API. We need to have tell where the images comes from. So this needs to be the URL of the Frame.io asset, and we got that through one of the past actions there. Then there are some parameters that are optional, so we don't really care about that. The output is mandatory. So we need to tell Photoshop once you've processed it, where does the image goes to? So that's the output, right? You can also look into the details here. So the input, the output, right? Options are optional, so we don't really need that, right? But the input, right? So it would comes from a URL. That could be a public URL or pre-signed URL. We'll get it through the Frame.io, and so there's input and there's the output. Again, it would need to be either Dropbox, AWS, or Azure, but we'll be using Dropbox, right? So to make sure that we got everything right, we just copy this as a template, and then at the body we paste it here. I'm going to delete those options because I don't really need that. Just keep it simple, right? So the input comes from Frame.io, right? So if I look into the dynamic content, it would be coming from the remember that we've got this so back to our flow, right? So we have this so we call the Frame.io API get asset, and Frame.io API return 497 parameters, right? More than we want, right? But the one we want is you could expand to see more, but the one I from memory last time was something called original. So that would get me the URL of the image that we could use, right? So I'm going to use this one. So it will be original, right? External. Now once Photoshop get this image and process it, done what it needs to do, where does it go? It goes to Dropbox. So I'm going to read at the href under the dynamic data, go to Dropbox. So because we pass the Dropbox upload link, create is the temporary upload link for me, so I will be able to use it, right? Now because it's Dropbox, the storage need to replace as Dropbox, right? According to the documentation, override, etc., etc. So we could just leave it as it is, and I'm just going to click save. And then we are going to do a quick test, right? And now we had this at the moment we have got this the original I mean in our Dropbox folder has this orange tube, right? Let's try something different. Let's just try this blue tube, right? So I'm going to select this and click on demo, and So it goes okay. And we are going to check the status. So go back to Power Automate, click the, and it generate a result. Let's just see. Yes, so all those things, yeah, that's good, right? So we are looking at uploading, calling the Photoshop. I forgot to name it, but this is okay, right? So, and then the error comes in at the last step. This is fine, right? So, and indeed, if we take a look at the Photoshop here, right? So it would just so that you know, right? When we call the Photoshop, which as I said before, I better label it properly, right? Now, what it return, however, is a job status. So this is something to be aware of, right? And because it when Photoshop does its magic, whether it works or not, right? It just return you with its job status. What you need to do if something goes wrong, you want to check about what's going on, you need to call another API. So Photoshop have this get status API. So you could use the job status number, call the API, and it'll return you with the results so that you know if it fails, why does it fails, right? So this is something to bear in mind. But we don't have to go through the job status because we could actually just check the Dropbox. So as you can see, the image, the green, orange image is now replaced with this blue image. Wonderful, right? And that is as it should be, right? So we know that it is working, right? So let's continue, right? I think what I might do is I might label it properly. So I go back to the edit. Always label it well, right? So let's just call this HTTP Photoshop remove background so that there's no confusion. Okay, good. Now that Photoshop has upload the image, remove the background, upload to the storage. What we need to do now is to find a temporary download link of that image so that we could use it in with Firefly APIs, right? Now to do this, we need to make another call with the Dropbox. So Dropbox have this we use the upload link to get the upload link, right? Now we need to use just the get temporary link for the download link. So it works like this. You call this URL and post it, and again your content type authorization, and then put the path to that image, and it will generate a return URL. Right. So that's the plan. So let's just go and create make this call HTTP to the Dropbox. Let's just call this now, right? So DB download link, and the URL, post, content type, application, JSON, authorization, bearer, and grab the Dropbox token, and then the parameters is just the path to the image, right? So I'm just going to point it to the temporary folder cutout.png. So this will ask Dropbox to return a temporary download link of this cutout image, and we'll use this download link to send it to Firefly APIs, right? So I'm going to save it and test it, right? So if everything goes well, we should return a URL and as well. So let's just go to test, right? Maybe this time pick the purple tube. We used the blue tube last time, so pick the purple tube. Okay, and then go to the Power Automate, click the back button and check it's running, right? So that's good. So this tag, right? We don't care about the rest, so we'll deal with that later on. But if we take a look there and we look at the output, 200, that's wonderful. The body, so this is output from this download link APIs, right? And it would give me a URL link of this image. So this is the image where the cutout image can be downloaded, right? So you could, I mean, just copy it, and indeed you could test it in a browser window as well. But I think I'll just leave it for now. I am just going to, since it got what I want, I'm just going to copy it and go to edit, because we remember we always do the parse URL just so that we could access the JSON file, right? So we're going to parse JSON and call it db download link JSON. Get it from the body of this db download link. The schema, we use the copied output as a way to generate the schema. Cool. So I think that is it, right? So if everything goes well, then it will return the URL, and this URL it can then be used in the Firefly API. So if I go to the Firefly APIs there, right? So this is the object composite. So we had the URL. So we don't have the user ID. We don't need the user ID because we've got the URL. Now, if you wonder why, you could go to the Firefly's API, go to object composite. It will tell you that when you composite an image, the source can be either a URL or a user upload ID. When we did the upload image API, it returned the upload ID, but we didn't use the upload image API this time. We used the Photoshop, remove background. It generated the URL that we put into the Dropbox, so we could put that in here, right? So using this URL as a parameter. Again, if I go to the details there, so you could actually see that the image can be URL or upload ID. If it's URL, then the URL needs to be of these domains, right? So Amazon, AWS, Windows.net, user Dropbox user content, which is the download URL domain from the Dropbox. So that is what we'll be using, right? So go to the Power Automate, and now change this to URL, right? So we are not using the ID, and the parameters, the dynamic data that we are using is from the Dropbox download link. So we are going to get that image, right? So that download link, you need to expand it so that you would scroll down, you see the link. This is the one that we need, right? And I think that's it, right? So if everything goes well, we give them the URL, give them the prompt from the Excel spreadsheet, so that it's got the text prompts there, 5 of those, right? And you loop through 5 of those. For each of those, it would generate an image, and then it will use this frame.io create asset and put the image into that into that folder and give this image a name, whatever, 1.jpg, 2.jpg, etc., right? So we'll test it out. So I'm going to save it and do our last test. Hopefully everything goes well. And we go to frame.io, right? Now, so the way we have so far, right? Of course, I mean, let's just check a few things there. So we have the output folder like last time. So output folder, this is where we are going to put all the images that are output into this folder, and we use the as I said before, create asset output into this folder there, right? And we are going to click on any of these images there, right? So also check about our Dropbox at the moment. So we've got this this is the last time from what we've got, right? But that's fine, right? So we are going to try out, maybe this time try the orange tube. So I've go to click the orange tube, go to demo, and success. Okay, so go to the Power Automate, check about how it run. So click the back button so we could see the run history, and I'm just going to check the status, right? So the first bit, yeah, okay, get the ID, read the content, create the Dropbox link, and then do the background. And when it's done, it generate a link, etc., and then is go and upload. So let's just see, right? And we need to test and see how it works. It will take about a minute or so. So we will. I want to show you some of the things that when we create these sort of workflow, things that we need to look into, right? But we'll wait till it finish first. So this is good, right? So everything looks good so far. You've got the green tick, right? Now, if I go to the power, no, go to Dropbox first, right? So Dropbox, right? So the image is the orange tube is there. So that bit is good, right? So go to frame.io, right? So if I take a look at the output folder, now output folder, there's a problem, right? So it does generate the images, and sure enough, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 generate images. But see, is getting the image from not the orange tube, from the purple tube, which was the one before. So when I was doing this exercise there, so it took me a while to figure it out. So surely somewhere along the line there was a problem, because the image eventually did upload to the Dropbox, and that becomes the orange tube, right? But why does it not using the orange tube, but using the previous tube as an object composite there, right? So this is what I want to kind of like show you. And we need to test it. Sometimes you need to test it, run it too, and then you try to figure out what might go wrong, right? Now, if I go back to the edit, of course we could look through those record, but just in the interest of time, tell you what happened, right? Now, everything seems to be working well. You've got the green tick there. Here is the main problem. So when we call the HTTP Photoshop to remove the background, it did remove the background, right? And indeed, it uploaded to the Dropbox folder. So the orange tube is up there, right? Now we get the download link, and then the download link used to do the object composite. But apparently, the download link that we get is kind of like not updated yet. So the download link seems to be referring to the download link of the previous image. If you recall, right? So we did put in that I want to get the download link from this cutout.png. So somewhere along the line there, this cutout.png from Photoshop that generate the new cutout.png to when so Photoshop is supposed to create a cutout.png, upload it there, but then we call this get the download link of the cutout PNG. I think somewhere between the line here, the status hasn't been up to date yet. So while Photoshop is updating the content, we get the link straight away. So before the content truly updated, right? So I think this is where the error comes in. So the way when but the fact is that we don't have something like Photoshop doesn't have something like a webhook or anything like that, right? So what I think one way to solve this is that if we just give it just enough time, so just some give it a gap of time so that it got upload, put that into the cutout link, then we get the link that might solve this problem, right? So to fix this one, I'm just going to introduce a little delay, and this delay can be in seconds, so I don't think it needs too long, right? So I haven't tested what would be the proper shortest delay, but I think just going to just put in something like maybe 30 seconds. Probably don't need 30 seconds, but just to be on the safe side, just say let Photoshop does everything it needs to do, and then we upload that content into Dropbox. Then we read the link of the image, right? So just like this. So let's do it one more time, and we'll save it. And now go back to frame IO, right? And maybe just we are going to get a new. Let's just say get a blue tube, right? So that it's not orange, it's not purple. We get a blue tube, right? So okay, all right. So I think it's good, and we will check the Power Automate workflow, right? So it's running, and we'll wait for the whole process to finish. Good. So all done. So as like before, we test first the Dropbox whether the image has been up to date, right? So there's now the Bluetooth, right? Now go back to Frame IO, right, and go to the output folder now. Now there are 10 items. And now we should have, yeah, here it is, right? The Bluetooth, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So I think, so, this is what I mean, right? So sometimes you want to make sure that you test the flow, and then, when something doesn't work exactly as it is, then you need to look into those steps. The thing is that the more frequent you test it, the easier for you to catch where the errors are, so that you could handle it, and like what we did today, right? So I hope you enjoyed the series, right? So we covered the various aspects of using the APIs. We started with Firefly APIs, and then we bring that into Frame.io, and then we put it together lastly with the Photoshop APIs with the help of Dropbox, right? And we automate this process. It demonstrates to you that with the right workflow in place, you can truly create content at scale. So, okay, I think that's all I have for you. So I sign off, and hopefully you have great success with using the APIs for your automation projects. Thank you. Bye.